Today we're going to be going over the best heroes in Watcher of Realms. The entire game, no questions asked. This isn't necessarily a tier list. Actually, this isn't a tier list at all. We're just going to pretty much snapshot the best champions. We're not going to give them grades or anything, but now that I've gone through the entire game, I want to showcase, and this is of course my opinion, all of the heroes that do thing where they fill multiple roles and they are just so much higher than the rest of the heroes in this game. We gotta talk about it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. What up team, it's Murderink here, back with the Watcher of Realms video talking about the best heroes in the entire game. Now it's not just going to be legendary heroes, so don't worry. We're going to be covering legendary, epics, no rares. Rares aren't really like other games as far as Watcher of Realms go, but as I said before, I'm basing this off of my current progress in the game, though it didn't upgrade my Nightmare 4 Guild Boss run, 70,000 damage, but pretty much I've gone through the entire game, and I've kind of kept track of which heroes did what as I progressed through, because I pulled a lot of heroes at the start of the game. So I want to talk about who's good, and since we have a 2x and 10x event pretty much every single weekend, not pretty much, we do have it every single weekend, it's worth talking about. So the first and I guess the best overall hero in the game, I'm just going to shuffle through so you don't know what I'm thinking, is actually not going to be one hero. It's going to be a combination of two. Based on that, you already know what I'm going to say. Sylas and Vierna. If you have these two champions, nobody comes close. I'm telling you right now, if there are tier lists that don't have these two champions as the best in the entire game, I question the validity of those tier lists. Gonna be honest with you, they're that powerful. They really are. Why is Sylas powerful? He's known as the cheat code in our guild. If you have this guy, he can pretty much carry you through all content. Why is Vierna in here? There is a passive bonus that gives an insane benefit, 100% extra damage. And if you know how the scaling of Infernal Roar works, it's passive damage, then ultimate damage, then it tacks on the additional damage from Eye of the Curse, and then on top of that additional damage, it also scales with 100% extra damage. This is like, it's hard for me to describe how good he is. I mean, if you have him, you already know. And he's even good without Vierna, but he's just moved so far beyond every other hero in the game when you have both of them. So as far as Sylas goes, single target monster. There are other champions who are really good single target, but the fact that he can get extended range if you're lucky enough to get someone like an Araka, it's just unreal. So I've talked about Sylas, now we got to talk about Vierna here. I got crazy lucky on this account because I actually pulled Sylas and Vierna as my first two. You heard that right. I did not have a single struggle in this game from day one. It was day 1 or 2 that I got these champions, but no struggles in the world. I had the bond bonus and I was just blasting through literally all content. Vierna, another AoE powerhouse, right? Her damage isn't that good. This is weird to say, but hear me out. Her damage isn't that good as far as her raw output. Like, her A1 hits kind of hard. It circles the opponents, it gives off an almost damage over time effect, and has a pretty high multiplier. And I don't even have her fully booked. Of course, she's gaining attack, which is a very powerful stat in this game. She has the bone shield, which is, people don't talk about this enough when they talk about Vierna. I used Vierna in most of my progression as a healer. Yes, you heard me right. I used her as a healer, because this heals a pretty good amount. And what enables the healing? It's the bond between the two of them. Bold Shield restores extra HP equal to 10% attack per second. She's a mage, so we are stacking attacks, so the skeletal shield was just amazing for me. It was like having a healer on the field. And the next part that makes her incredibly strong is kills enemies below 35% after a short delay. This is an execute. As we can see, execution threshold plus 10%. I can't even explain how insane this is, right? Granted, it doesn't work on elite monsters or bosses. How many times this has saved me when I was progressing, like, again, I can't even stress how good this is. So that is my reasoning on why I don't want to talk about one set of champions for too long, but these two above everyone else. I'm going to die on that hill. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I'm just saying I don't see any other hero in this game being better than the combination of these two. With that being said, I'm going to skip Arrogance. I do think Arrogance is one of the overall best heroes in the game, and I'm going to say hero and champion because I'm not used to calling them heroes, but he's really, really good baseline, but he's unreal once you start getting awakenings on him. That's why I'm hesitant to give him like the best overall hero title here. His A1 restores HP. This may sound like nothing if you're like really endgame, but progressing, again, I started during the 10x of Arrogance. I got him A5 during that 10x because I bought packs, but I also had all of the shards from completing campaign and all that good stuff, and I was lucky. You get crit damage in the A2, the A3 extra damage when burning, A4 rage regen. People don't realize how strong this A4 is, by the way. Any hero with an A4 that gives rage regen on attack, not just baseline rage regen, I don't have words for how good that is. But when he really pops in this game, not that anything else is bad, the A0 through A4 is incredibly strong, but the A5 is an unreal damage boost. Unreal. I don't really like the system of how A5 can be this much better than everything else. And the reason why I still have to talk about him as being one of the best heroes in the game is because if you have this guy, you know he carries you through a lot of content. Like, there's no doubt about it. So just understanding that, he becomes like, I would say like 5 times better. Like, is it a coincidence A5 is 5 times better? No. But this bonus here, it may read like not a lot, but getting immediate bonuses that normally have to ramp up gives this guy insane burst potential on a hero that he's a ranged fighter and he has abilities that double hit. I don't know. I just can't explain how much damage this guy does. Now, if you have Zilitu, which I don't, who I don't consider the best hero because she's a bit too reliant. I mean, I guess you can say Zilitu and Twin Fiend is kind of the same as Vierna and Silas, even though they're not at all. But that's the reason why I wouldn't place Zilitu on this list, because if Arrogance is barely squeezing on, I think Arrogance is way better than Zilitu on their own. And if you want to compare an A5 Zilitu to an A5 Arrogance, for most content in this game, I'm picking Arrogance. While Zilitu is really good in Guild Boss and the #1 damage dealer as far as output goes, Arrogance is pretty top tier everywhere, and especially at A5. So those are the heroes we have so far. Now I'm going to be skipping Hatssut from this list. Why am I skipping Hatssut from this list? If you get her, she's incredible. Don't get me wrong. However, there are other heroes that can do almost exactly what she does, who aren't legendary. Now, I get it. If you get her and you've been using her to carry you through the campaign because you didn't have other accounts, you may think differently. You may think I'm crazy about not having her as one of the top champions, but I'm telling you for a fact that most players don't realize how good all legendaries are when you're in the early game. Like, if you took the worst legendary in the game, like Crash, or people think Absint's really bad. I don't agree with that because I've used him, but they think he's really bad. Shamir, all of these heroes, if you get them in the early game, or Azur, perfect example. If you get these guys in the early game, they will help you progress very fast. That's why I don't like tier lists, because I think it gives new players the wrong idea. Like, I'm not going to invest in this guy because he's the worst legendary hero ever. When in reality, it's probably the best hero they have on their account if they got him first, second, or third. And they're just getting destroyed by content. So besides that side rant, that is one of the reasons why I don't value Hatssut so high, because there are many heroes that do what she does. Even though she has a few unique things like the invisibility, that's okay, but it's really easy to not need that. So it's more of a quality of life thing, which I really can't justify that to make her a top tier hero in this game. The next hero I do want to talk about is Elowen 100%. Elowen is such an overpowered healer that, I mean, first of all, it's the rage gen from this right here. Restores rage equal to 3 seconds for all allies equal to 3% of their rage caps. And then fully booked, obviously, that's where I'm getting these numbers from. Now, if you don't have Elowen and you friend assist someone with an Elowen, you will understand within 2 seconds of wherever you were previously stuck why she's so good. If it's not the rage gen, because there are champions like Laurel, Hollow, who also have rage gen, Elf of the Forest is something that saved me on countless stages in the campaign and in many gear raids. Notably Gear Raid 1. Having a global heal that I can drop on demand is unreal. Unreal is like an understatement here. And these are the reactions you should expect from the best heroes in the game. Which I know I keep going back to Hatssut because people are going to have a fit about that. I can't say that about any one of her skills. Not a single one. If I'm not saying this is unreal, they're just not the best. It's that simple. Now, the next hero I want to talk about is an epic, and it's the first epic we're going to talk about, and that's Idril. Now, Idril, again, is one of these insane epic champions with an ultimate that's global. When you first pull her, it can be kind of finicky trying to realize who she's going to attack first when you use it, but this hero, along with Salas and Vienna, using them in tandem with each other is progression like you won't see from any other epic and pretty much any other hero in the game. Because this, she hits incredibly hard. I don't know if people have really seen like an endgame geared Idril. Mine's not particularly well geared. I'd have to like go to take my Silas's gear off. Just look at the difference in these stats already. I guess I can for this video. Why not? It's going to be worth it just to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about here. All right, now that I've re-geared it with pretty decent gear, I should actually put some gear on Silas first. One more second. All right, now I'm ready for real. Let's just head into Gear Raid 1 so I can hopefully let people really understand just how good Idril is. So we're Power of Dominance, 321, whatever. I just want you to see the numbers that are going to come from Idril here. So 55, it's whatever, 67, 77, okay. Let's wait for her to pop her ult. Okay, look at this damage. Just have a quick look at the damage. She's absolutely melting this boss here. So is Silas, I get that too. You'll be able to better understand her damage on this next wave when it's just her and Nyx pretty much popping off here. Okay, so Dolores is going to go, which is then what, 417,000 damage. Just think about that for a second. Part of Idril's ult just hit for 417,000 damage on a single hit. So hopefully, based on that, you kind of understand. Let's watch it again. 307. Granted, the numbers are going to be different based on the defense and when Idril's gaze, the artifact procs on them, but this is what we're dealing with. Right? So, a champion that can scale this well, that's an epic with a global ultimate, by the way, is invaluable in this game, and it's a reason why I'm considering her one of the best heroes in the entire game. Right? So again, if this hero isn't at the top of someone's tier list, I really question the integrity of that. And since we're on epics, I have to talk about Olague here very briefly. Don't have to go too much into it because if you have this guy, if you're playing Watcher of Realms, you know how broken this guy is. You really do. Once you max skill up Silver Shield, he's the greatest self-sustain hero in the entire game. Just no question about it. He's the best. For the role he does, easily the best here. So that's just going to be the quick rundown on him. I don't have to explain this guy at all. The next hero that I really don't have to explain is going to be Dolores. This inspiration buff increases attack proportional to the caster's attack. While this effect, it's 40% of her attack for 22 seconds. With how strong attack is in the damage formula, Dolores is nuts. She will increase, you saw that Gear Raid 321 run damage with Dolores and without Dolores. I think Tauriel was critting for like 77 or 78,000, and then I don't have to talk about the numbers again, but 400,000 damage. So that's what we're talking about that attack can do in all scaling of this game. So if you have Dolores, and especially if you don't have Dolores and then you get Dolores, you don't need convincing as to how strong this hero is, because you will see your progression skyrocket across the board. You can do everything without her. They did a pretty good job balancing things, so you don't need anyone I'm talking about here as far as the best heroes, but they're account changers, and that's why they're on my best hero list. The next hero is kind of hesitant to put on, but I just have to do it. It's going to be Vortex. I don't think anyone thinks this champion isn't extremely good. I just don't really think they're giving him as much credit as they should be. Once you start getting into the higher gear raids, keeping your heroes alive starts to become a slight struggle. Now that's only not the case when you have a hero like Vortex or like this girl, Sadie here. Sadie isn't that good because she has some very niche uses, but Vortex is a pumper of a healer, and he's HP based, so he's very good healing throughput, meaning the numbers across the board are very high healing wise. Scales with attack speed, unlike some of the other healers. Is Vortex better than Eloin? No, but Eloin will die way before Vortex in lots of very hard content, like Void Rift Nightmare, or Void Rift Hard when I first got there. If I did not have Vortex and I just had Eloin, I would have struggled so much more. So much more. So the fact that he made that much of a difference in my Void Rift Hard, Void Rift Nightmare, Elite, I think it's called, Elite or Expert campaign, the campaign stage or chapter 9, and then the high level gear raids. He made so much of a difference, I have to include him on this list because I'm just thinking about how much higher gear quality I would need if I did not have a hero like this. And since he made that much of an impact, I have to include him here. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You might be thinking, Murder, you're only talking about champions you have. What about the ones that you don't have? How do you know if they're good? That's a great point. I'm going to go over that right now here. So I don't have Leia. She's not a top hero. I have all of these heroes. They are not considered a top hero to me as far as best in the game go. I really don't want to include any lords because lords are kind of there for their lord bonus. Some of them are very strong outside, like I got 50,000 blood in Nightmare 4 with Torador as a damage dealer. He did a lot of damage and he applied defense down for 100% uptime on the boss, so he's very good. His lord bonus is insane, but I don't want to include any lords with this because I can make a separate video on the best lords in the game. Now Salazar, he was also a hard one not to include here. I think Salazar and Hatssut are kind of in a similar spot as far as how good they are. Bleed is incredible for a lot of content because it increases the amount of physical damage you do to that target that has a bleed on it. However, it's rather awakening dependent. The burst damage potential is extremely high. It even says burst damage right here because the scaling from the ultimate, 6 strikes dealing 220% and then finally 300% damage, that's a lot of damage. So things like artifact raid he will excel in. However, you can actually use a rare champion Q to get through artifact raid, so he's not that required. The next champion I could have mentioned but didn't is going to be Valeria. She's incredibly strong. She has a very high cap and guild boss. She can be used to, I guess, like sacrifice tank lots of content in this game for sure, where there's like a one-shot boss. You drop her early, you pop her ultimate, she starts doing millions of damage. Again with Valeria, her awakens really determine how good this hero is going to be. She's great baseline, but the power spike of her going from A0 to A3, even to A1, that's very strong, and then to A5, it's just night and day, and I can't, on good faith, consider a hero the best in the game if it needs all of these awakenings, where half of the heroes I mentioned, actually all of them, are incredibly strong baseline. So I set a very high bar for a list like this. Moving on to the Curse Cult, Morrigan again. The Lord bonus is very strong, but wasn't comfortable enough to add her onto this list here. Lasir, very good, pretty decent AoE damage, anti-heal is nuts, but you can kind of burst through any healing issues you will have in this game. Cerberus was closer to making this list than a lot of people think because of how dominant he is in the arena. There are some rotations that if you have a Cerberus, you will never lose to someone without a Cerberus. So with that fact alone, Cerberus is almost there. The fact that arena is kind of niche, yes, you can use him for Gear Raid 1, very strong campaign. He has lots of uses as well, but he's just so overwhelmingly good in one section. I almost added him, like I said, but I just could not justify doing that. Carnelian, another hero that really makes someone like Valeria shine. However, once you remove Valeria from the equation, her value drops and plummets pretty much to the ground. Eona's good, Greed's okay, Hollow is good, but Hollow is just like a budget Eloin, so I could not add her. Moving into the Infernal, I didn't mention anybody here besides Dolores. Twin Fiend, God tier, champion for the guild boss, and for some rather niche one-shot mechanics, but outside of that, I would not say he's best overall, because even though he is incredibly strong in the guild boss, you can hit 70,000 bloods like I have without a champion like this. Zilitu, again, really strong, powerful in lots of content. Is she better than Arrogance overall? I would say no. I don't have her, but I've seen her used pretty much everywhere from people just flexing on me, and I had a much easier time clearing my content than they did. So that's kind of my basis on how I'm comparing Arrogance to Zilitu. Setrum, good. His cost is way too high for me to consider him top tier. Hex, very strong. However, in my opinion, while some people value his magic uniqueness for being a marksman, I think that kind of takes away and makes him that much worse than heroes like Idril as well as Silas for overall content in this game. Not overall content for Guild Boss, he's incredibly strong for sure. Moving on to the Star Piercers, of course, Araka, very powerful, kind of like a miniature Cuke, but she is melee, of course. None of these other heroes will jump out at me at all here as far as doing something better than anyone else in the game. Esoteric, Venema, again, Lord bonus, OP, very strong. Didn't mention Comet. Comet is another hero that I would say is pretty much deserving of being on this list, because if you don't have someone like a Vierna, you can absolutely carry your account with a Comet, and he was kind of in the same situation that I had considered Hatssut in, but I think I'm going to give the go-ahead right now and just say Comet is one of the best heroes in the game, because he is so good at baseline, doesn't really need the awakenings, even though the awakenings are quite strong, because he can carry a lot of this. His damage is more front-loaded than Vierna. He's kind of like a reverse Vierna, where she executes, he just has insane magic burst. And it's really hard to compete with a hero like this. He has very solid range, and this is probably the defining factor as to why he's on this list and Hatssut isn't. Her ultimate is very limiting. It's very close range for a marksman, and I do not like that at all. I think if Hatssut has no enemies within 5 tiles, her range is extended by 2 times, that would make her easily one of the greatest heroes in this game, but she's just missing that one extra thing that's making her a top tier choice. Chaos Dominion, I don't think we have to talk about these heroes because most of them share factions besides Gon. And then Ajax, I think Ajax is good. He's a bit overrated for a lot of content. I've tried to use him in quite a few things. His burst damage is very good. Don't really know why they're labeling him as control. I guess it's for the slow. Magic res reduction is very powerful, but if I'm being honest, I may be crazy with this. I don't think he's strong enough to be considered an unnameable. He can be very good. He did carry me through Gear Raid 1, but I do think he just needs a little bit more for a hero that's in this faction. He's my favorite hero in the game because of how he looks. I love placing him down. I love using him. The cost is a bit much. I think this is one of my biggest qualms with a hero like this. If his cost were 18, I think he would be more appealing to use. His awakenings are extremely strong. If you kind of go down to the bottom here, I mean, -3 cost kind of solves a little bit of the cost issue, but this A5, a 25% damage increase, that's going to have 100% uptime. If you don't know what Thunderstrike is, I'll kind of just show you really quickly. Thunderstrike procs often. I would say it's relatively close to every 7 seconds in most content if you're gearing him properly. So getting a almost permanent 25% damage boost would make this hero someone that I would consider one of the best in the games because of his uniqueness and what he can do for all factions and how it ties into them. But he's just not there without it, so I cannot add him to this list. Alright guys, with all that, it's going to conclude this video. Give me your thoughts below on this not tier list, the best hero breakdown. I want to know what you guys think, what you agree with, what you disagree with. If you're not already subscribed, smash that subscribe button, like the video, hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next upload, and I will see you all in the next video.